も飛ばしたらあんなこんなどんなカーブもへっちゃらさダダダティダダトゥダダうなるエンジンで涙なんかぶちぎれ
Welcome to the Super Sentai Brothers. This is episode 38 of Licensed to Carranger, the internet's best and only podcast dedicated to Gekisou Sentai Carranger. Every week we watch an episode of the show and we share our thoughts with you, the listener. My name is Matt J. With me as always is my co-host and brother Dave. Dave, how you doing today, bud?
Doing pretty well, man. I just picked up a fun, I don't know how long it is. It seems like it wouldn't be that long. Cool new game on that Game Pass, Super Hot.
Oh, that is a super fun game. It's not super long.
It didn't seem like the sort of game that would be super long. I remember seeing like some development ads for it ages ago, and I was like, this game looks very cool. And then I kind of never gotten to play it. And I picked it up today, and I got to play the first like half an hour of it, and it's real neat.
Yeah, I played it. I don't remember if we talked about it on the show. One of these days, I should remember that we actually have Mark maintains a running list of everything we've talked about on the show, so I could actually just have that list up and reference it to make sure I'm not repeating myself, but today is not that day. I did play that game. I bought that game after like months of hemming and hawing about it, and then I finally was like, dude, this game looks great. I've been wanting to play it for ages. I'm just going to spend the $20 on it. And then like 3 weeks later, it was the free Xbox Gold game of the month.
Oh, no way. You know, I dropped my Xbox Gold. I temporarily have it like right now. And I probably will not have it again very soon. But for now, it's a good time.
Yeah, well, you're on break still. Anyway, you know what else is a good time, Dave? It's episode 38 of Gekisou Sentai Carranger. It is called Back, Alright? Imo-Youkan Life.
It's such a weird title for this one.
I checked it like 3 times to make sure that I was not missing a word.
Nope, yeah, that's it. Having watched the episode, like, I can see how the title does make sense. It's still just a weird one. It's also a very, very good episode.
It is. I was trying to think, like, is this a Backstreet Boys thing? But it's too early for Backstreet to have been back, all right. Because this episode, original aired date was November 8th, 1996. It was written by Yoshio Urasawa. And, of course, you can watch it along with us on the DVDs or at shoutfactory.com. But, of course, Dave, before we get to any of that,
I would have just turned 14.
Oh, yeah, wow. Well, I would have been, 12 then, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. How time flies. Anyway, Dave, as always, you know what else flies? Through the heavens. There are 5 stars. What is our first star of the week?
So, Matt, our first star of the week is Dungeons & Dragons. So you and I and my wife and our sister Katie have a pretty long-standing game at this point. Long-standing, highly intermittent.
Right, I was going to say, saying that it's a long-standing game implies that we've played it sometime in the last year.
We did play it sometime in the last chronological and calendar year, but it was about the last time that Katie visited was when we played, because she visits about once a year, and she visits for like 3 or 4 weeks, and that visit is coming up. And so I thought to myself, do we want to stick with the same game that we've been playing, or do we want to kind of kick around some new ideas? So I've been kicking around some new D&D concepts.
All right.
That I wanted to throw out, and you can chat about. And if you're a D&D person, feel free to use these. So the first thing is this: after years and years and years of like DMing and playing in games, I have come to the conclusion that while it's fun to do like a 4 noble heroes meet in a tavern kind of setup, that it's actually a lot cooler, and ultimately I think makes for a neater game in many ways, if you decide ahead of time, like, okay, we're gonna do this thing, right? And like, we're gonna talk about our characters ahead of time, and we're gonna sort of make these decisions, and everybody's gonna come up with a reason as to why we're here, and we're gonna build a game around a particular theme. So here's the handful of things I was thinking about. I have always wanted to have a game and to set out ahead of time that game is going to take place more or less in its entirety in like a given environment.
Oh, sure, because like there are a ton of options, both like classes and races and stuff, that are really cool, but straight up just do not work in 90% of games.
Right, like there's like a cavalier fighter for like a fighter archetype, which is cool unless you're any place you can't be on a horse.
Right, unless you ever go into a dungeon, which is usually one half of the game.
Yeah, so I thought it would be really cool to have a campaign that's like set out on the water, like an ocean-going campaign. There's a bunch of class archetypes that work for that sort of thing. It could be cool to have an entirely like underdark subterranean game. Thought about that. Thought it would be very cool to have a whole game set in like a giant primeval wood.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, like a huge forest, and you just sort of are always in the forest. So I thought that would literally any of those would be very cool.
Like there is stuff that rangers and druids can do that are basically useless unless you're in the woods all the time.
Right. And so I just, like a lot of those things are very cool, and they're cool enough that you could be like, I would play a whole character just based around this thing. Like, okay, you know how I walk to work every day?
Yeah.
And it's winter here in Cleveland. It's been unseasonably warm, but normally when I'm walking around in winter, I think to myself, man, everybody sort of like reads over the part in like the subclass where you get the mystic ability where like snow and ice is not difficult terrain for you. But that would be a really amazing power.
It would be.
Right? Like it's ice and you're just sort of like sprinting along like it's no problem. It'd be incredible. So I thought about that. I thought this was sort of a side thought. I thought it could be fun to play a sort of like mouse guard inspired game where you slash like root maybe, where you translate all of the standard D&D races into like woodland creatures.
Ooh, I will tell you, Dave, that does sound super fun. There is a root tabletop RPG that was recently very successfully kickstarted that I ordered, and it has not yet arrived. So I will say we can absolutely do that, but do not spend you don't have to spend a bunch of time translating D&D into it. There is already a game.
No, this would be a very quick translation. It would just be, I feel like dwarves would be badgers, and then like if you want to play a badger, you just use the dwarf stat block, and that's kind of as much effort as I feel like I would put into it.
Gotcha.
So the third thing I thought of that would be really cool is if you played a group of people who were like really trying to break into the making magic items game.
So like you're like artisans and merchants?
You're like adventurers, artisans, merchants. And so it's a game about like getting your workshop. Well, and of course in D&D, like if you want to make a magic sword, you can't just like bang out a magic sword. You have to go and like find the reagents and all of this stuff. So like there's still a lot of adventuring going on, but there would be a little bit more like the importance of your downtime would increase a lot. Because you'd be like, what are you doing with your downtime? It's like, well, I'm trying to find a buyer for this +1 magic sword we just made. And I thought that would be cool. And I thought it would be a different fun game would be, how in every D&D game and like every fantasy setting ever, you're always like, you're raiding ancient tombs, right?
Sure.
Like you're finding ancient artifacts from like a bygone civilization. Well, at some point, somebody had to make those, right?
Sure.
Like at some point in like the ancient primeval past of Dungeons and Dragons, there was just a first society, and they didn't have ancient tombs to raid because no one had built tombs yet. And I thought it would be really fun to play a game wherein you are the first heroes of that first society.
Oh,
and you're like fighting dinosaurs.
I don't know what you would
and stuff.
do, but
well, yeah, I'm not really sure exactly how that would work, but I really like the idea.
Because I feel like there's
just
going to be a lot of dragons and not so many dungeons.
Yeah, so it would just be like Dragons and Dragons, and then you would have to build the dungeons? I'm not really sure. This is all very nascent ideas. And then, of course, Matt, I think I mentioned this before, I do have some ideas rattling around for how you could play Gundams and Dragons.
Which does have a real appeal, I gotta be honest.
It does. So basically, here's what I've got. In Gundams and Dragons, you are the, descendants of a civilization that like settlers that crash landed on a giant world where like you're very small and everything else is like very, very, very large. Okay. And so what you do is that you all pilot Gundams, and the Gundams have a character class. Okay? So, like, your player only has one of two character classes, and it's like pilot or technician. And then you pilot, like, a fighter Gundam, or a cleric Gundam, or a wizard Gundam, right?
Dave, the words wizard Gundam are very appealing to me.
Right? And then, so, basically, like, you're sort of leveling up your Gundam, and that's how you're leveling up your character, but then you're also getting some side abilities for like being a very good pilot or being a very good technician or something like that. So anyways, that's just kind of what I've been thinking about a lot recently. What, Matt, is our second star of the week?
Second star of the week, Dave, is that I mentioned earlier that we're both on break still, and that is because it is the holiday season. Happy holidays, everybody. We have just enjoyed Christmas, and actually today, as we record this, it is New Year's Day.
Yeah, we're a little bit late, and we'd had a vague idea that we might get an episode out last week, but we didn't. We didn't. We were just very busy.
It is Christmas time. It happens.
Yeah.
There are not a lot of great jokes about the fact that it was just Christmas and New Year's, but dude, Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year's.
Yeah. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Yeah, there's just all sorts of... Man, there's actually like a ton of holidays that happen right around this time, and I don't know all of them, but if you celebrate one of those, I hope it was great.
Yeah. I'm currently recording on my new mic stand, which is very exciting. So I no longer have to hold my old desk.
Suggestions on that. I thought you would be excited about it.
Very excited, because that means I don't have to haul my old desk back into my bedroom to set up my old mic arm anymore.
Yeah. Before this, Matt, I made a pot of coffee with that great new coffee grinder you got me. Thanks very much. To hear it. Yeah, the kids have been going just absolutely nuts playing with all of their presents. It's been great. And I went to bed yesterday at like 10 o'clock, which is how I like to do it.
Oh, dude, I have been having the opposite experience. Like, if I have a vacation that is longer than a long weekend... Like, I just immediately revert to staying up till 2 in the morning and sleeping until 10. Like, that is just my body's natural state, I think. So outside of other things, that's just how I operate.
I am very much with you. And if I had my druthers, I would absolutely be doing that. But my children wake up between 6 and 7, kind of regardless of what happens. So it's just not worth it to stay up past 10 o'clock because I just wake up exhausted. I did have cassoulet yesterday, which is my my New Year's Eve tradition, and it's my favorite dish in the whole wide world, and it's delicious.
Very nice. I think I might treat myself to a nice lunch today, because today is my last day before I have to go back to the office, so I may have a one last hurrah, take myself out to lunch.
Do it. Hit that larder place. Tell me how it is again.
Dude, I'm thinking about it. Anyway, so that is our third star of the week. Dave, what is our... I'm sorry, that was our second star of the week. What is our third star of the week?
Third star of the week, Matt. A little bit of movie talk. So, Star Wars came out. It's come out. I have managed to see it. So, in my mind, if I've managed to see it, if you wanted to see it, you've seen it.
Right.
And so I feel like we can just talk about it.
Yeah, we are going to talk about Star Wars. We just skip forward a few minutes if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, okay, very briefly, I thought it was great. It was very much a Star Wars. There was Force lightning, and there were lightsabers, and there were some very good lightsaber fights, and then, there were spaceships, and those spaceships shot lasers at each other, and lots of things exploded. I was pleased as punch.
I felt like my take on it was that they spent the first half of the movie, introducing a bunch of things that I really didn't like, and then they spent the second half of the movie trying to justify their terrible decisions and actually make it all work. And I think that they mostly succeeded. That is my sort of overall take. I think it worked harder to be the last of 9 movies than it did to be the last of these new 3 movies. And I think some stuff got lost in that shuffle. But like overall, I enjoyed it.
I can dig that. Yeah, I liked it a lot. Here are my...
Can I tell you my other thought, Dave?
Please do.
I have this idea, and I feel like I can't quite thread the needle on it. Like I can't figure out exactly how to explain it. But it feels like The Rise of Skywalker and Spectre are kind of the same movie. Like
Ooh, okay.
Like in both movies, like things from the previous movies that seemed to be building to something are now very suddenly, like still building towards something, but not the thing that it was building to before. It revisits a lot of each of them revisit a lot of ideas and themes from previous films in the franchise. In both instances, like the big bad from way back in the day in other movies is now here with kind of no explanation and is like all of a sudden in charge and the big bad again.
Okay.
And also there's weird family stuff.
The only thing I'm going to throw out is I wonder if you want to reserve that to say that The Rise of Skywalker is like the new Bond movie that is about to be coming out. Because just based on the trailer, it seems like there's going to be a lot happening there.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the thing is, I watched Spectre like twice on that. Like, I watched it like twice over the course of a weekend because I had to record an episode of Spectre about the movie Spectre and then talk about Spectre for 3 hours. So I was thinking about Spectre a lot. And then later that week, I saw The Rise of Skywalker, and I'm like, man, there is something here. Like, there is connective tissue between these. Like,
Matt, I wish I could help you out with that. I haven't seen Spectre I saw it like one time ages ago. So Rise of Skywalker, as I said, I really liked the movie. I had 2 problems with it. My first problem with it is when they go to the planet and like Poe runs into his old smuggling buddies and there's like a person there and we're clearly supposed to care about her. And I kind of don't at all. And that has actually been something that I feel like these 3 films have actually been sort of guilty of. It's like they've thrown characters out and you can tell by their costumes that they're important, but then the movie never actually bothers to get around to making them important. So I had a problem with that. And then my only other really serious problem, honestly, is they threw in this peril that C-3PO was in, and never for even a single second did I think that C-3PO was in any actual danger.
Oh, yeah. That scene very much felt like it was in there so they could have that in the trailer.
Yeah, like it was that was like a giant just waste of movie space. Like they could have eliminated all of that and the movie would have been exactly the same. And in fact, probably better.
I feel like that character that you were talking about earlier, I
don't even remember her name.
I don't know. I know it was Carrie Russell.
Yeah, Magenta Catsuit, like whatever that character's name is.
That really feels like a character that either they ended up cutting 3 scenes that she was in, and she was supposed to have been more, or they straight up just put her in the movie because it was a cool design, and they're like, I don't know, we'll make a comic book about her next year and let people know what her deal is. Because I know that happened with Captain Phasma in the first movie. Like, she's in the movie, she's in the second movie, you'd never get as much about her as you want, and then they did like a 12-issue miniseries comic, like actually getting into what her deal was.
Oh, okay, well I would check that out. That is actually, the play between the comics and the movies, I think, has actually been pretty strong in the last year, since it's all sort of like under one boat now. So anyways, Matt, all of that cool movie stuff aside, well, we're getting into more cool movie stuff. Matt, what is our 4th star of the week?
Here's a cool movie interlude, Between the Stars. Hey. I also saw Knives Out. Knives Out rules,
man,
y'all.
I really want to see that.
Anyway, that's it. Go see Knives Out. So here is another quick movie thing, is that it is now January, and as I referenced a few months ago, I am going to be having January be my Westerns movie month. Like everybody watches horror movies in October and then Christmas movies in Thanksgiving in November and December. And I was like, dude, I like Westerns, and there's no time of year that people just watch Westerns. So I'm just going to pick a month, and that's going to be my Westerns month. And I picked January, and now that it's January 1st, I realize I have done very little to prepare for Westerns month. Like, I have just been, like, trying to scope through, like, my various streaming services to see what's on there, but, like, a lot of them are movies that I don't recognize, and a lot of the movies that I was looking for, I can't, like, are not freely available to stream. So, here is my request to you, the listener. If you have a favorite Western, let me know what it is. Like, tweet at me, because I would like to obviously, like, see some stuff I've seen before, but I would like to use this as an opportunity to, like, get into some other Westerns that I haven't gotten to before. So if you have a favorite Western, get at me. Dave.
So, Matt, quick question.
Yes.
I guess here's my one big question about this. Is, are you only accepting, like, how pure is Western month? Like, if somebody suggested, if you hadn't seen it, which I know you have, but if somebody suggested that you watch, like, The Seven Samurai, is that in or out?
I would say The Seven Samurai is out. I mean, The Magnificent Seven is obviously in.
Right. Well, I mean, like, that's kind of my question, right? Because there are a lot of things that are in many very important ways, like Westerns, that are not actually Westerns. You know what I mean?
I think I would be more inclined, if I'm going to dip outside of, like, Westerns proper, I would rather watch something that was influenced by the Western genre as opposed to watching something that influenced the Western genre.
Okay. Dig it.
So,
well,
like,
I'm very excited, man. You know,
like,
I
in
love
that
Westerns.
way, like, you know, like, The Mandalorian, kind of a Western. Seven Samurai, I feel like, is not.
Yes. No, I got you. So, yeah, man. So Matt's on Twitter, and Matt, I'm really delighted to see. I hope this becomes a long-standing tradition, Matt. I'm very excited about this.
Me too. Honestly, I'm just excited to finally have an excuse to rewatch The Quick and the Dead.
Dude, I recently watched a couple clips of that just because, like, I was thinking about it. It's a very, very good movie. Very good movie. Everybody is astonishingly young.
Yes. That is something I'm going to have to grapple with.
So anyways, Matt, movie talk, Western month, what is our fifth star of the week?
Dave, fifth star of the week is that it is January 1st, and do you know what that means? That means...
I mean, it means a lot of things.
Well, it means a lot of things. But for us, on this show, we need to determine what our new slogan of the year is going to be.
Ooh, I have actually been thinking about this a little bit.
Because last year it was Get Into Gear, which I think we figured out what that meant kind of late in the year, but I ended up being pleased with it.
Yeah. We had Be Excellent to Each Other. Be Excellent to Each Other actually made a second appearance because it was just such a good one.
Did it?
So Matt,
I thought Up Your Game happened twice. I thought we had Up Your Game.
Oh,
twice.
that's no. Up Your Game, then Up Your Game, and then Be Excellent to Each Other, and then Get Into Gear. So Matt, this year I'm thinking. I've been kicking this around. Let me know what you think. I think we should just go with Grip It and Rip It.
Okay. I mean, that's got a delightful cadence to it, and I know it
speaks to me.
It's the name of an alcoholic
levels.
Arnold Palmer brand.
It is,
but
it is.
How would I use that in my day-to-day life? Like, if I'm like this year, if I thought like, okay, I should get myself into a particular gear. That's sort of a mindset that I can do. I can be excellent to other people. I can up my game. How? Dear brother, how am I going to grip and rip it?
I feel like it's a pretty straightforward process, Matt. Like there's two stages.
Sure.
Stage 1, grip it.
So important.
And then stage 2, you just rip it, man. Grip it, and then you grip it, and then you rip it.
Okay. So, okay.
So think about a...
So you've got like, it, right? It is there. It's on the table.
And what you need to do is grip it.
Step 1.
and then rip it.
Step 2. Okay.
Yeah. So like if you have like a personal goal, you say to yourself like, I really want to. This is everybody's goal every year. I really want to get in shape this year.
Sure.
You would take that goal
Get in shape.
and you
hydrate.
would
Positive vibes only.
And you would grip it, and then you would rip it. Is what you would do.
Okay. See now this, what we did have a discussion of a different slogan at some point, and I'm trying. Oh, I remember what it was. 2020. Please go register to vote. Now, that's a very good slogan. Now 2020. Please, for the love of everything you deem holy, go vote. Right. See, now that's a good one. I feel like it's very important. It's
not as punchy as grip it and rip it.
It's not quite as punchy, and it really only involves one act, but also very achievable goal.
A very achievable goal, and may have the side effect of like saving the Republic, which would be cool.
Yeah, I mean that would be fun.
So
now, okay, why don't we circle back around here, because that is a goal, right?
Yeah.
Now you can grip that,
and then
subsequently, you can rip it.
Yeah. So I think
grip and rip the vote.
Yeah. Like, if we stick with grip it and rip it, I think if we remind people that as one of the its in this case is the vote, I think that would be a very... it can apply to other things.
It's a 3-step process. It's remembering that voting is important, and then gripping it, and finally ripping it.
In that particular... So in all cases, it would be a 3-step process. Like, you need to identify an it...
Sure.
Then grip it, and then rip it. Solve for X, grip X, rip X. Yeah.
I love it.
I feel very strong about this, Matt. 2020, grip it and rip it.
Yeah, get after it, folks.
Speaking of getting after things.
Yes, we are going to take a break. We are going to watch episode 38 of Gekisou Sentai Carranger, and we will be right back. Okay, welcome back. So episode 38 starts... Okay, I think this is my fault because we didn't have an episode last week, that I was surprised in the beginning of this episode. Because the episode starts with the Reckless Dash Emperor exhaust electrocuting all of Barabarian. And President Dynamo is like, hey man, what's going on? Why are you electrocuting us? I thought we were your new bros. And I also thought, hey dude, why are you electrocuting them? I thought they were your new bros. Then he reminds both them and me that the reason he is doing this is because they failed him so miserably in the previous episode.
Yeah, if you don't recall, in the sort of same way that we didn't, he had sent them a giant paper craft robot called Noshiron 12, and they were to use it to defeat the Rangers, and right as they were about to do that, Inventor Grotch had forgotten like one of the arm pins, and the arm fell off, and they were unable to defeat the Rangers, and Reckless Dash Emperor Exhaust is furious about this.
Yeah, now President Gandamo insists, don't worry, this time we have fixed Noshiron 12, so everything is cool. Like, and in fact, not only is it fixed, I think that if we pair this giant robot with one of our regular giant monsters, I think together, the combined force of that will be enough to defeat the Carrangers. So, who should we send down to turn into a giant?
Let's give credit where it's due. This is, I think, the most impressive piece of like strategic thinking that we have seen from President Dynamo.
Now that's a pretty low bar, because the strategic thought here is, why don't we get two big thing? Like, it's not that brilliant, but it is displaying some sort of ability to learn from past failures.
So we go from there to Dapu. Actually, where they're down to the Ranger base, and Dapu is giving a classic... He's got the classic pose for like an inspirational speech, which means he's sort of like walking around with his arms clasped behind his back, which I don't know if there's a manual somewhere that just says that like this is how you have to do it, but he does. And he's like, listen, we defeated Noshiron 12, things are going well, but we need to continue to try hard. Like, the Bozark aren't going to let up. We got to be careful, because if you remember from last episode, his big concern is that the Rangers were sort of like resting on their laurels. So they had a near defeat. They did pull it out, but Dapu is sort of capitalizing on this to say, like, listen, guys, you really gotta, we gotta stay on it.
Right, and don't forget, like, now the Bozok have this deadly new patron in the Reckless Dash Emperor Exhaust. We need to show no fear in the face of this enemy and, like, really, like, go for it. And all of them say yes, and they all put their hands into the middle to have, like, a team cheer. Then somebody counts the hands and realizes that somebody is missing.
And the person who's missing is Yuko. she sort of pops up with a newspaper, like a magazine or something, and she says, "Guys, I don't know quite how to tell you this.
I hate to ruin your moment.
Clearly, you're doing a whole thing here, but I might not be in the Carrangers for much longer." At which, of course, the other Rangers are like, "What now?" And she says, "Listen, I was reading my horoscope in this newspaper." And it says that at like 10101 on January 01 or something,
right,
at First Street on Avenue 1, at 1 First Street in Area 1, like, I and everybody else, I guess, who has this, I just thought about this, I will meet my destiny. And so clearly, all that can mean is that I will meet the love of my life, at which point we will obviously get married, and then I'm not going to have time, guys.
Right. It's not that
sorry.
It's not that I don't care about our mission. I'm just going to be so busy with my new married life that will happen immediately as soon as I meet this person tomorrow.
And so she just kind of leaves. She's like, bye.
Yeah. So we cut back to Barbarian, and as I mentioned, President Ganimo would really like to pair up Norishion 12 with a giant monster, but Grotch pipes up and is like, "Hey, well, bad news about the giant monster front.
We do actually have a small problem."
Right. I went down the other day to stock up on some Imo-Youkan because we ran out, and the store that we buy it from was closed, and not just like closed for the day. It had a sign that said closed for further notice. So, and we're seeing all this in like a backflash.
Yeah.
Or flashback.
And he says that
That's
sort
how you
of,
say that.
so we see Grotch, and he sort of like dips around the side, and he peeps in the window, and we see the proprietor, Mr. Imocho, which I did not realize. I think Imocho is his name. Like, it is both his name and the name of the shop.
I believe that
like
to
it
be
is
the case,
Imocho's.
Yeah. I'm discovering
which I
that
had
for
not,
the first time.
Yeah, like they had never mentioned this before.
Well, to be fair,
maybe it's one of those things
like,
that
to this point he has not been a major character.
Yeah, well, maybe it's one of those things that, like, if you are like a native speaker, like if you're Japanese and a native speaker, like it would be very clear that is this dude's name and also the name of the shop. But I had no idea. So Grotch sneaks around. And he's spying on Mr. Imocho, and what he sees is that Mr. Imocho's like, he's sitting there next to his wife with his head in his hands. He's like, I'm so tired. Like, I'm just so exhausted. I have been making Imo-Youkan like nonstop for 50 years. I'm just beat. Like, I just can't. I'm retiring. We're gonna close the store. I'm just
I
shocked,
cannot
man.
make one more of these things.
So first of all, then we go back to Barbarian, and everybody's flipping out. They're like, "Oh no! What? Like, how are we going to become giant? What are we gonna do?" First of all, I do love this, and this answers a question that we had, I think, in like episode 3, like the very first time we saw some giant monsters, which is it Imo-Youkan like in general, or is it this dude's Imo-Youkan specifically? And the answer is, it is specifically Mr. Imocho's Imo-Youkan. Like, there's something about it that turns Bozo giant. And you can't just go get, like, Imo-Youkan from the 7-Eleven. You need this dude's, like, artisanal brand of Imo-Youkan.
I think we had gotten... Wasn't there a time early on where they tried to get it from somewhere else and it made them shrink instead of grow? And
there was like a thing.
There was definitely some experimentation, but apparently the final answer is that it's gotta be this guy's recipe.
Yeah.
And they have never once tried to steal his recipe. They don't steal the Imo-Youkan. They actually treat this guy with a lot of respect. Weirdly.
Yeah, it's kind of incredible. And so they're like, we don't know what we're gonna do. If we can't get this dude's Imo-Youkan, like suddenly our entire strategy hinges on this very specific element, and like we're boned. So Reckless-Emperor Exhaust, it does not question this at all. He does not ask why. He does not just say like, no, clearly like something else could work. He's like, yep, you guys are obviously right. You know your business. All we can possibly do is make this man young again. And he reaches with his, and like, I thought that this was supposed to be a holographic projection. I'm not sure. Reckless-Emperor Exhaust might just be the size of the sun. It's not clear. Because he just reaches out and grabs a shooting star and squeezes it, and it like turns into like a droplet of energy, which falls into the BP saloon and then like coalesces into a like a big toothpaste tube.
Yeah, or it's like a bottle of it's a tube of like skin cream. It is like, here,
yeah.
I have squeezed this shooting star. Now it is a rejuvenation cream, and it will de-age this man so that we can continue to use him. Which is a cold way of putting it, Emperor. But I guess he's the Emperor of all evil, so I wouldn't expect anything less. And everyone's like, oh, well, look, I guess this solves all of our problems. Who should we give it to? Oh, I know. The ugliest monster alive.
Yeah.
They give it to, it is their number one makeup artist. And his name is P.P. Chipuri.
Yes.
Dave, can you, how would you describe this thing's look?
Okay, Matt,
because I know that sometimes you look up the concept art for these things.
Yeah, I am looking at it right now, and I am trying to come up with a way to describe P.P. Chipuri in a way that does not make it sound like I am endorsing the hurtful stereotypes that he is very clearly based on.
Okay.
So with that caveat...
instead of... I feel like at this point, instead of you saying anything further, I feel like everyone can picture it now.
Yeah.
He is not a monster who has aged well.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, he's got a real rough look. And so he is a makeup artist, is his thing. And his mannerisms are just like a kind of a hurtful stereotype. He's just like a very effeminate old dude. In a way that doesn't seem cool. Anyways.
He's the only monster we've seen with a 5 o'clock shadow. I think that's true, right?
Yeah, I think ever.
Yeah. Anyway, let's now that you have that like vague but upsetting series of images in your head, let's move on.
Yeah. So we go down there and we see Mr. Imoko. I'm gonna keep saying Imoko because it's Imo-Youkan, but his name is Imocho. Sorry. So we see Mr. Imocho. He's exhausted. P.P. Chipuri just shows up and sort of just like busts in, and Ume, his wife, Mr. Imocho's wife, not PP Chipuris. Ume is like, what is happening with your whole thing? What's up with you? And he's like, never mind that. And he just sort of like squirts this cream on Mr. Imocho's face. And Mr. Imocho is also freaking out. And PP Chipuri's like, no, don't even worry about it. It's a gift for you. Like, I brought this cream. You're going to look amazing. And it's like a skin mask, sort of. So, like, you put the cream on and then you peel it off. And when he peels it off, it works as advertised.
Yeah, he's like 50 years younger.
Yeah.
He is now, like 18, 20 years old, something like that?
Yeah, like, however, yeah, he's de-aged 50 years. So he is, like, right in the age range of, like, the Rangers or, like, whatever.
His wife faints immediately.
Yeah, he also immediately just freaks right out and just runs.
I mean, I get it. He's having an alarming day.
No, it's totally reasonable.
Now, I don't know if he is having enough of an alarming day to forgive his actions for the rest of this episode.
Yeah, no, he definitely is not, actually.
But he's having a strange one.
Yeah, we'll get there on you, Mr. Imocho. So we go from there to, you can see where this is going, I'm sure. We go from there to Yuko, who's standing at the appointed corner. And weirdly, she's the only one standing there at the appointed corner.
Oh, are you suggesting that everyone who's sort of within that same, like, zodiac sign should all be waiting at that corner?
Yeah, I mean, that's like a remarkably specific thing for an astrology, like, person to tell you. And so it seems like she can't be the only one in the city who is taking this seriously. But maybe she is, because she's the only one that's there. So she's kind of counting down the time, and we're getting sort of like smash cuts between her counting down the time and a now de-aged Mr. Imocho sort of like tearing down the street in existential terror.
Right, and just as the time clicks down to when she is supposed to meet her destiny, he just runs directly into her and they both fall over.
Now, as a side note, Matt, I need to understand why the Rangers are not investigating this astrologer.
Well, that's a great question, Dave, because the odd thing about this is that either this is a remarkable coincidence, or there is something to this astrologer. But now, the astrologer did not say that Yoko was going to meet her, like, one true love. She just said that she was going to, like, meet someone that she was destined to meet. Like, have some great destiny at that moment.
Yuko has assumed that it is true love. Matt, wait. This astrology thing, it's gotta be tied up with, because it's the car magic stars, right?
Oh, sure. I mean, because all of every weird magic thing in this universe is all vehicle related. At first, I thought that maybe there were like a number of different sources of like weird supernatural power, but as we've continued to meet more and more characters from throughout the galaxy, I am just convinced that everything important in the universe of Carrangers is related to vehicles and ultimately car magic, or like reverse evil dark car magic.
Yeah. So, like, I'm not sure where the intersection lies.
So
okay, wait, Matt.
Yeah.
Matt. This is not an Earth magazine that Yuko is reading. It is a space magazine, and so, like, she's the only one who read it. But like all across the galaxy,
she's the only one on Earth who has a subscription to Space Mag.
Yes, and so all across the galaxy, there are people who are reading this magazine, meeting their car magic destinies at their respective intersections on their planets.
Okay. Yeah, perhaps. I mean, listen, we know that Space Mag is published by the Reckless Dash Emperor Exhaust. So perhaps, I don't know, because the fact that she was there to meet this guy has screwed up the Bozo's plan. So either this astrologer has made a blunder, or perhaps they are like a mistreated employee of Space Mag and they are secretly working against the Emperor.
Ooh, I really like that.
Like some
That's very
super
good.
deep mole stuff.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so...
Anyway, Yoko immediately falls in love with this young old man.
Yeah. And she's like, what's your name? So he tells her that his name is Imo-Taku, and there's probably a joke in there somewhere. And he there's like a running gag where he talks like an old person.
Right, like
which obviously is not like noticeable to us, but they've mentioned it a few times.
I mean, the actor, I think, is doing a good job of sort of like holding himself like an old person, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's and like I'm just saying, like I'm not picking up on the phrasing that they're noted that they're clearly catching, but they mention a couple of times like, oh, you seem like an old person, and that's a little bit weird. But Yuko is she's totally excited. She's like, this is amazing. She's like, we should go. Like, we're destined to meet. It's got to be love. Like, let's go on a date. Imo-Taku is like, oh, yeah, man, sounds good. Like, let's roll. And then we just get a couple of cuts of them just like on some date stuff. Like, they go get coffee. Yeah.
And then as this date is... And, okay, when I say this, I want you to remember that earlier we mentioned a character who is not in this scene. That character is Mr. Imocho's wife, who he has been married to for 50 years. Okay, so we cut to the end of this date, and Imo-Taku is like, hey, Yoko, you know what I always wanted to do? I wish that I could have been a baker. And she's like, well, you're young. You can be a baker. It's not like you're at the end of your life and like looking back with regret. You can just be a baker. And he's like, oh yeah. Hey, do you want to be a baker with me? We'll make cakes. We'll make the greatest cakes in the universe. It's going to be amazing. Like you and me together forever, making cakes. Now, this is a problem for a number of people. It's a problem, I think, primarily for Mr. Imocho's wife. It is going to be a problem for Yoko once all of this comes to light, but it is also a problem for the Bozoke, because the Bozoke do not need him to make cakes. The Bozoke need him to make Imo-Youkan.
Yeah. So, PP, there's sort of... PP Chipu is like looking on. He's like, oh no, like this is very bad. And so he just sort of like rolls over and is like, hold up, dude. No, like you need to go make Imo-Youkan. That's why I made you young again. And they just start fighting?
Yeah, like he shows up and Imo-Taku, quote unquote, is like, hold on, Yoko, I will protect you from this alien beast. And, like, just starts fighting him. And it seems to go okay for, like, a second. And then, you know...
it doesn't.
He is a giant monster from space. Like, he's not giant yet, but he's, like, 8 feet tall as opposed to 5'5". So it's not going great for our young old man boy. But as he is about to get, like, the absolute snot kicked out of him, Inventor Grotch rolls up. He's like, hey... PP Chopuri?
Hey, my dude?
You cannot kill that dude. We 100% need him. So then they're in this weird spot, right? Because Imo-Taku, a.k.a. Mr. Imo-chan, or Imocho, or whatever, that guy.
Like, he has no idea. Like, he doesn't know why... Like, this conversation makes no sense to him. All he knows is that there's, like, an 8-foot space monster. So he's still trying to fight, and Pipichipu is just sort of standing there getting hit, because, like, nobody really knows, like, how to resolve this. The Rangers arrive, and they're about to jump in, and Yuko is like, no, guys. My man of destiny, like, will handle this. It's, like, don't get involved.
they're like, well, first of all, we cannot believe that there actually was a guy here for you to meet. And also, we cannot believe that that guy is beating up these two Bozoke, because they're looking at the fight, and, the fight is sort of cartoonish, because they're not fighting back, and he doesn't really know what he's doing. But eventually the Bozoke retreat, because there's kind of nothing they can do at this point, because, they can't kill this guy, and if they try to capture him, the Carrangers are there. So they're like, we're just going to leave and try again later. So they just run off.
So it is at this moment that Ume arrives. And she recognizes Imo-Taku. Because, she did see him once he was transformed. And, of course, she also just knows what her husband looked like when he was young. Because he just looks the same.
Right. There's a picture of the two of them on their wedding day. And it's like that. It's this teenage actor.
Right, so she's been running around looking for him. Imo-Taku recognizes her as just like, oh, crumbs. This is bad. And Yuko recognizes her as well because she has been to the shop. And Ume just sort of lays the whole thing out. She's like, yeah, I'm not sure what happened, but a big gross space monster busted into my house and made my husband 50 years younger, and there he is. And they're like, is this true? And he says, oh, man, yes. I was suddenly 20 again, and I really was not sure what to do. And so I just did this.
Right.
Sorry.
Yoko faints. Yoko faints and is fainted throughout the commercial break, because when we come back from the commercial break, they the rest of the Carrangers have put a cold washcloth on her head, and she has woken up, and Imo-Taku rolls over and is like, hey, can we just talk? I was having a great time on our date, and it seems like he's trying to double down on being young now, even though his wife is there. And his wife is standing right there. Not in the circle, but 20 feet away. And just sitting there saying, why are you hurting me like this? We have been married for 50 years, and weeping. It's a bad scene.
Yeah, it's real rough, man. And Yuko, to her credit, is like, yeah, you have a wife, though? So
right
no.
There?
And it's literally right there. So Yoko goes over and sits down and talks to Ume. And they're sort of she sees her tears and it's like, oh my gosh, this is obviously very bad. Pipi Chipuri is watching this and he's like, oh man, this is very bad because I may have overplayed my hand here. And if I do not intervene, this again is some very forward thinking on their part. They're gonna figure out why I did this. They're gonna realize why that we need this specific Imo-Youkan. And if they know that, we're boned. So I have to intervene, I have to keep this secret. So what he does is he just attacks. So he attacks, and then they're like, what's going on? And he says, oh yeah, my plan was that this was my first test case to see if this worked, and then I was just going to make everybody super young, and everyone was going to freak out, and that was my evil plan.
Right, my evil plan was just to cause a general panic, which, when you think about most Super Sentai plans, yeah, that's there is no reason for the Carrangers not to believe this. That's what most of the plans are. Yeah, I'm gonna take one thing and I'm gonna make it weird and people are gonna freak out. And then, I don't know, we win, I guess. So they start chasing after him. They're like, okay, well, you are clearly terrible. We're gonna come beat you up. So they chase them away. He runs, we cut to Signal Man. Signal Man is just finishing up his break of standing there by himself, and going back to his patrol of standing there by himself. And as he does, Pipi Chipuri runs past him, and Signal Man is like, hey, You're not allowed to be that ugly without my permission. It is against the law. Which, hey, I can say that monster is ugly because I'm talking about a monster costume that somebody made, and I am criticizing a television show. But inside the television show, Signal Man, you are just being hurtful.
Yeah, that's an awful thing to say.
You should never tell someone they're so ugly that it is illegal. That's a bad thing to say to someone, even if they're a monster from space.
So, he's like, oh yeah, how dare you say that? And he's sort of like, PB Cheapery has now realized that maybe that wasn't such a bad plan and that he could weaponize this cream. So he like shoots a blast of this facial... Man, there's no weird good... This is all bad.
The rejuvenation...
So he shoots...
He weaponizes the rejuvenation ointment.
Thanks, Matt. He weaponizes the rejuvenation ointment.
You're welcome.
And then just squirts like a big load of it all over Signal Man's face.
Dave, I worked so hard. Dave, I gave you...
Yeah.
Okay, yes, he does. And then Signal Man says, oh no, it's fine. I actually don't need that because I have like a perfect smooth skin from like robot space. But when he, when he peels the stuff off, it does not matter that he did not actually have like skin that needed to be rejuvenated. He just magically transforms into a child. So this stuff is not like a thing to make you seem younger. It is just a thing that like takes your body and sends it back in time 50 years or whatever.
Yeah. So now there's like Kid Signal Man up in the mix. There's a fight. This is actually very cool that I didn't notice until a little bit through the Rangers are there and then they get in the fight and then they're just fighting.
There's some wumpers.
Yeah, this is a sort of Yuko focused fight and they switch up the theme song in the background and it's like a lady singing it.
Yeah, I thought that was very cool.
A cool touch. So Pee Cheapery is like, he's a lover, not a fighter. He's trying to fight. It's not going very well. Yuko jumps in and he tries to blast her with the rejuvenating ointment. She does like a shield spin, so it kind of bounces off, and then she just blasts him, and that's it. So they summon Noshiron 12, they summon VRV Robo, things are getting crazy, and then we go down to street level, and we see Ume, the wife, and she's running, and she sort of trips, and Imotaku is there, and sort of sees this happen. And as Ume trips, she drops this big package of Imo-Youkan that she had made. And Imotaku runs over and he's like, dude, it's Imo-Youkan. It's fine. Just leave it. We got to get out of here. And she says, no, I can't. Because these are the last Imo-Youkan that you and I made together. And if we lose them, like somehow this will be symbolic of our 50-year bond like disappearing.
Right. Like,
so these Imo-Youkan are special.
Yes. So he's like, okay, sure. And they pick up a few of them and then they run to safety. But Inventor Grotch has been listening to this and he's like, aha. That means that's the good stuff. Like, I can use that now to turn this fight around. So he grabs it and instead of saying like, hey, Pee Cheapery, like, eat this and turn giant, he just turns around and jams it into Pee Cheapery's mouth.
And who clearly...
Yeah, you could tell that he was not planning on being this involved in the fight.
Yeah, he's like very clearly being kind of forced into this. Like, Grotch is just sort of jamming it in his mouth. But once it's in, he like glows red. And it seems to also be like, it's a giant potion. And this hasn't come up in a long time. But it also seems to be sort of like a berserker potion. Kind of.
Right, once they take it, they just start like, even... They just get back in the fight in a very big way. And this guy, who was not in the fight really to begin with, is now, like, ready to roll.
Yeah, it's pretty... I mean, and then from there, like, it's pretty fast, because Pee Cheapery is, like, so ineffective that even with the fight, he's actually... He loses the fight.
Right, so so Syrender shows up, but, like, he's kind of stumbling, because when we go inside his cockpit, Signal Man is still in there, but Signal Man is, like, Signal Boy right now, so he can't, like, reach all of the controls and pedals properly. And so Cyrender is like there, but not really working up to his full potential. So he is fighting Norishan 12 while VRV Robo is fighting PP Chipuri. PP Chipuri has this rejuvenation ointment, and he's like, okay, I am going to, I don't know, shrink that robot somehow. And he's aiming it at Cyrender, and VRV Robo sort of like hops in, grabs it, and redirects it. So instead, it hits Norishan 12, and then an incredible thing happens, Dave.
Yeah. It de-ages, but of course it's a robot, so what happens is it deassembles itself and just turns back into papercraft.
Yes, it goes back into the original box that it was from.
Yeah, and then it explodes.
Right, because it needs to explode right now for a good reason, because in a minute, if it hadn't exploded, we would be in trouble again. It explodes. Zelmoda, who had been piloting it, is kicked out onto the street. And then the fight is basically over. It is time, VRV Robo pulls out the Victory Twister and shoots PP Chipuri 100,000 times until he dies from explosions.
Yeah, and then we get a nice resolution, which is the smoke that rises from his burning corpse has some sort of reversing effect. So Signal Man is back to normal, Mr. Emocho is back to normal. Everybody's
and that is why it is
cool.
Great that Norishan 12 blew up while it was a cardboard box, because otherwise it would also go back to normal, I assume.
Yeah. So and then from there things are cool. We go back to Mr. Emocho's Imo-Youkan shop, Imo-Cho. And there's a big long line, and he's rejuvenated. He's like, let's make Imo-Youkan again. And then the Rangers are there, and they're like, hey, Imo-Taku. And he's like, oh, that was a bad thing that I did.
The both of them wave to the Carrangers in a way that was like, you are a reminder of our worst day. Hi, friends.
Yeah.
And the ending of this episode is weird, right? Because on one hand, you're happy for him that, he is safe and alive, and he and his wife have worked things out, and their business is back on track, and they're more popular than ever. On the other hand, now he's just making Imo-Youkan again, which is terrible for the Carrangers and the world at large.
Yeah, I don't know, it's weird. So anyway, that's the end of the episode. Of course, Matt, it's not the end of our episode.
No, of course not, Dave, because first we need to determine where PP Chipuri falls in the Creature Royale. And I think it's pretty low.
It's very, very low. It's been a very long time since we had a monster that was so bad that they effectively defeated themselves. And they're at the very bottom of our list, and it's Father Magnet and Bara Vacuum. And they're only not at the very, very bottom because they're still better than General Cactus and Bara Nightmare, who are both sort of horrifying and gross. And I would say that I like both Father Magnet and Bara Vacuum a lot better than PP Chipuri.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, there's another person down here at the bottom of the list who is... What is this, Beauregard? Dave, who was Beauregard? And why is he, this far to the bottom of our list?
I gotta be honest, Matt, I do not remember.
Man, I tell you, dude, I am looking at a picture of this guy. I don't know.
I don't remember this dude at all.
He is just a whole... Oh, Beauregard is the protector of Empress Multiwa during a scheme where she tries to seduce the male O-Ranger on her side in order to try to get the mecha from them, appearing as a Maltese dog before transforming to its true form when she is revealed to be behind it. So is Beauregard the thing that was the dog?
Maybe, and I think we hated that.
I mean, clearly we didn't love it. It's at the bottom of the list.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, so I guess I would maybe put... I'd put Pee-Pee Cheapery above that.
Sure, why not? We'll throw him a bone. He didn't want to get killed. I mean, none of them do, really, but he didn't even want to be in the fight, really. So I'll give him that, like, very small nod.
Yeah. So, down at the new spot 175, 4 is Pee-Pee Cheapery. And that, Matt, is going to do it for us.
Before we finish up here, I'd like to remind you all you can email the show at supersentaibrothers@gmail.com. You want any updates on future episodes? Check out what we're talking about on Twitter, or, as a reminder, let me know what your favorite Western is. We're on Twitter at Super Sentai Bros. Dave, if the good people would like to get a hold of you to get in on the playtest for Go Sentai Heroes, your tabletop role-playing game that you are developing, how would they do that?
So I'm a little bit stalled on it, just because I've been super busy, but I'm hoping to circle back to it over the remainder of this break. And if you want to get in on that, the email address is just gosentaiheroes@gmail.com, and I'll get the playtest out to you and then get you on the mailing list for any future updates as well.
All right, folks, if you like the show, and I hope that you do, please remember that chiming in the iTunes review section, there are 5 stars. There are also 5-star reviews that very nice people have left us. You can go on there and read those, and it will make you feel good about how everyone gets together to celebrate this show, I guess. That went a weird direction. The Super Sentai Brothers are a production of Retrograde Orbit Radio. If you would like to listen to any of the other great Retrograde Orbit Radio shows, you can find them all at retrogradeorbitradio.com. Once again, we are the Super Sentai Brothers. I'm Matt.
I'm Dave.
And we'll see you next week for the greatest show on Earth.